Early spring, when it's just warming up and getting going, most of it's whitebait, spearing and sand eels. Spearing and sand eels, they don't really migrate much. Leo. They don't really migrate around a whole lot. You know, so there's some inshore and offshore movement of them, but for the most part, what they do know about them says they usually stay around. So your early spring baits are usually the white, you know, the spearing and sand eels and whatnot. And then, of course, immediately followed by everybody's favorite, the bunker. And the bunker is sort of the harbinger of decent fish to come. When they show up, you should always pay attention to them. Late spring, oh yeah, the bunker, some herring. You still have herring left around in the spring sometime in the bays. Usually not the bluebacks, but there are several species of herring that frequent our waters. And I don't really look. I'm not a biologist, so I can't give you all their Latin names and whatnot. But I do know some of the larger species of herring tend to swim around with the hickory shad a lot. Not much with the bunker, but with the hickory shad, I will frequently, when I'm catching hickory shad to live line and use for bait, I will frequently catch these herring that, you know, they got regular fish mouth. They're not like a bunker or anything like that. I don't know what they call them, but they're still around. We call them pickles because they're the perfect size for bass to suck up. Late spring, you got the hickory shad. Flounders start moving in, various and sundry species of ground fish. Ground fish is something that a lot of people don't pay attention to when bass fishing. And we'll get more to, I'll get more to that later on, but there are certain ground fish that obviously bass like, porgies, small sea bass, blackfish. So a lot of times, you know, for an example, people ignore a hole in the bay where it drops down to 18 feet. The bottom is lined with pin bass. You know, there's nothing but flat, and you got this hole, and it's filled up with these little pin bass and little, you know, bay porgies and stuff like that. People will never consider that as a spot for catching bass. And there could be a very nice little pot of bass just hanging around that spot, sucking those things up one after another. Summer, various ground fish still move in and out, porgies and whatnot. I tend to fish more passive baits in the summer when I do fish. If I'm not in an inlet, there are some spots. And by the way, I don't spend all my season at the bay. There are very definitely some times where I move out front, like in June. You know, I still like to catch some big fish once in a while, so I target specific times where I'll move out there. But during the summer, I use a lot of the passive baits, the worms, clams, chunks. You know, bass are not really, you know, moving around that much. You can get, like they said, the short little bites around the inlet. You can get those. Late summer, that's when the fun starts to happen. Usually the first one I think that everybody agrees on is the juvie weakfish, juvenile weakfish, young of the year. They will, you know, they'll try and sneak out of the bay sometime in August usually. First little trickle of weather, they start filtering out. And you got to work a lot on them. It's usually out on the open beach. I used to have a friend of mine who I fished with who loved, you know, that late August, early September. He fished with the big golden pink swimmers, you know, just going after the weakfish bite. He did pretty well with it too. I never really got the whole hang of it, so I don't chase him around that much. I just put it up there to do diligence on it. I don't really fish that bite. And then of course you get the mullet start staging in the back of the bay. And that's sometimes fun to watch because you can show up on a nice September day on the backside of an inlet someplace and you can watch a pod of fish in broad daylight go charging through these mullet, and you just like start spraying out of the water. And so that's one of the things that you can look at. I mean, everybody tends to associate mullet with a beach bite, where you're chasing them down the beach. They actually stage on the back sides of the inlets first before they go anywhere. And of course, the bass know this, and they're going to hunt them down. Okay, fall. Everything goes into action. You know. Different bait species migrate depending upon whatever the signals are that make them go. Mullet are usually the first to leave. Bay anchovies, you know, rain bait, whatever, they're around usually till I guess October, usually mid-October. and stuff like that. And then boom, all of a sudden they're out. They're a very, very prime forage. A lot of the bites near the inlet will revolve around bay anchovies. They pack themselves really tight around them sometimes. Deep in the bay, you still have all of your white bait, peanuts. Peanuts haven't left yet. They're still hiding around in the back there someplace. They're worthwhile hunting down. And of course, some of the other fun stuff that happens deep in the bay, flounder. I don't want to blow too much of my tactics here, but a lot of people, there's enough flounder around where we don't catch them that much. But there's enough flounder around that still draw the attention of bass. And so all I can say is, you know, a good flounder hole that holds flounder, it always pays to take a look there. And you can swim an eel there if you don't have to get them plumbed.
Is most of what you're talking about for boat fishermen, or does it go?
No, actually, I do all of it. You can use it for, from a boat, certainly, but there's a lot of places that all these places, all this stuff I fish from the shore. I live line from the shore. There are points and places and some of the common places like piers.
No, because you were talking about depth and stuff, and I was just wondering how I could associate that with casting. How would you know? Maybe
How do I know the depth?
Yeah.
25 years of throwing sinkers and channels, finding holes. And now you guys got satellite shots, and I got a whole bunch. Yeah, we're going to have some fun later, but I'll show you what to look for sure. But anyway. So that's pretty much the late fall, like I said, flounder, the herring move in. When the herring move in. Years ago, it used to be much better than it is now. I haven't really gotten on a real good solid herring bite in the bay. But if you can find a bunch of bluebacks piled up under something. Now, by the way, I'm somewhat known as a bridge fisherman. I'm not going to be covering fishing from the bridges. They're in the bay. Okay, so you can read into it for whatever you want. But due to legal issues and all the hassles that are associated, we're going to skip that part of it, other than to say that there's a whole lot of stuff around bridges.
You mean fishing from on top of the bridge?
Yeah, fishing from on top of the bridge. And even fishing from the, from the bottom. It's like, it's kind of a specialized form. And I'll be honest with you, I'm getting kind of annoyed at showing up with some of these